Hi, I'm Elle. I'm studying a PhD at the Department of Sociology at Cambridge. The work I have here is a slice of my ongoing PhD project. In this short talk, I'm going to introduce Baemin, the food delivery platform in South Korea, and some of my key arguments building on the literature concerned with the relationships between cities, bodies, infrastructure, and digital platforms. Towards the end, I'll briefly talk about what my study might add to the discussion of platform labor and urban life in general, and also my plans to further develop this project. In South Korea, more than a half of the population have at least one food delivery app on their smartphones. Baemin, being the largest food delivery platform in the country, played a key role in making ordering meals using an app everyday practice for many Koreans. Many of the local governments are also launching public apps as a counterforce to large private players. Food delivery itself is not new in Korea. Getting delivery food, especially for lunch at work or for night snacks, has been common practice in Korea for many years. What has changed is that delivery couriers are now wearing branded jackets and helmets, contracted with platforms instead of with restaurants directly. As the platform companies expand with a more diverse range of food and drinks, more and more people are joining this workforce, especially for part-time. Baemin in particular labeled them as Baemin Connect. We are seeing Baemin and other food delivery platforms increasingly embedding themselves in urban life and changing ideas and practices around eating, moving, and working. Moreover, these platforms are assembling cities in certain ways by micro-regulating the mobility networks and transforming the associated social and economic relations. They present an opportunity to study the increasing infrastructuralization of location-based platforms which remake cities. The research on platform labor has primarily been done through frameworks of gig economy and platform capitalism. However, I argue that delivery couriers contracted through platforms are more than a new type of labor. They also form a critical conduit in urban logistical systems that micro-coordinate flows of people, food, and information. Therefore, I approach the app-enabled meal delivery as a moving assemblage of humans and non-humans that forms a larger, fluid infrastructure. I further consider riders' patterns of working and moving with food apps as practices of urban space making. Through this research, I aim to develop an analysis of how food apps generate different infrastructure practices and politics within smart city developments, which have not yet been extensively studied. Now let me expand a little bit on the aspect of delivery workers becoming infrastructure as their labor materializes as infrastructural practices. The infrastructural turn in media and communication studies suggests that digital platforms and apps are becoming infrastructure themselves by gaining characteristics that are typically associated with infrastructure, namely scale and criticality in social life. Among others, Plantin takes Google Maps as an example to demonstrate how platforms moved beyond the platform model and increasingly rely on the infrastructural properties to expand and sustain their businesses. Its increasing embedding in urban life suggests that Baemin is growing to the level of infrastructure. Furthermore, as Baemin is becoming infrastructure itself, it mobilizes delivery riders in the process. Infrastructure studies provide some detailed accounts of the precarious nature of infrastructure. Rather than stably embedded in a fixed location, infrastructure is a constitution of leaky, partial, and heterogeneous entities, as Stephen Graham says. In particular, it emphasizes the significance of human activity in keeping the infrastructure work. In addition, the Cyborgian idea of urbanism tends to human bodies being increasingly mobilized in making of urban infrastructure. For example, Mahatma Gandhi argues that, quote, the emphasis of the cyborg on the material interface between the body and the city is perhaps most strikingly manifested in the physical infrastructure that links the human body to vast technological networks, unquote. On the surface, Baemin app seems to provide a friction-free experience to the users who order and receive the food, and as a whole, the fleet of moving delivery riders appears to form a continuous and seamless distribution chain. In reality, delivery riders stitch all the seams present in the process. Riders do more than pick up and deliver the food, but also take care of other things such as the issues with payment to make sure the task is fully completed. And of course, food delivery fundamentally relies on riders' movements. The relational understanding of infrastructure makes evident riders' activities in keeping the platform-mediated food delivery system running. In this sense, delivery workers are performing dual labor. On one hand, delivering food, on the other hand, making and sustaining the whole infrastructure. What is significant in this infrastructuralization process is connectivity and mobility. As opposed to a large control room, now mobile apps play a significant role in mediating and centralizing flows of information, objects, and people through distributed nodes. And the pervasive use of mobile devices and deployment of digital infrastructure make human subjects more intimately merged with the fabric of the city. For example, the constant logging of personal spatial data and increasing embedding of facial recognition system across city, as noted by Agnieszka Leszczyński. And Jennifer Gabriel talks of citizens as sending nodes in the urban network system. We might say that being part of infrastructure is one mode of living in and living as part of the contemporary city. Borrowing Leacock's concept of digital mobilities, I suggest delivery couriers working with platforms are becoming mobile connected bodies, and they constitute fluid infrastructure in the city. Further, if we recognize the emergent aspect of smart cities made incrementally through everyday practices, as Paul Dorish suggests with the notion of accidental smart city, every trace of platform labor and infrastructural practice is remaking urban landscapes. incrementally actualizing smart city. While Seoul is transforming into a smart city through the implementation of various big initiatives, the case of Baemin Connect allows us to see how a smart city is incrementally actualized through everyday mobility practices enabled by the continuous efforts of multiple parties. To talk about contributions, I think by considering platform-mediated food delivery as an emerging urban logistics infrastructure, my study highlights the significance of delivery workers' activities in sustaining the platform-mediated mobility system and food ordering/delivery practice. This way, materiality and speciality of platform labor are brought to the fore. More broadly, I seek to contribute to conversations about whether cities, as they operate within the logic of digital platforms, are more or less inhabitable, what kind of smart city is being made, and how different social groups are mobilized and affected through these urban transformations. In the next phase of this project, I plan to gather empirical data and further explore precisely how delivery riders enrolled in sustaining the urban logistics system and how the platform activates distinct mobilities which create traces of platform labor in cities and remake urban landscapes. That was the end of the talk. Thank you for watching.